BRICS takes down the dollar. Trump is out of options. BRICS executes an incredible strategy that leads the dollar to an unprecedented free fall. The fall of the dollar, Washington on the ropes against the BRICS strategy, the pillar on which the United States' economic dominance has been sustained for over a century, is crumbling. The US dollar, the emblem of Washington's financial power, is in free fall. The crisis has reached unimaginable levels, plunging the White House into a nightmare of colossal proportions. No one wants to use the North American currency in their international transactions, and little by little, it is disappearing from global markets. The dreaded collapse of the imperialist currency is no longer an improbable scenario, but a reality that is unfolding day by day. The decisions of the countries that make up BRICS have been a fatal blow to the US currency. China, Russia, Brazil, India and South Africa, along with the new members that have joined the bloc, have promoted a strong economic strategy to strengthen their local currencies and reduce their dependence on the dollar in international trade. What once seemed like a simple alternative to the financial system dominated by the United States, today is a plan in full execution that is dismantling the global economic order as we know it. The markets already reflect the consequences of this paradigm shift. The Russian ruble and the Chinese yuan have managed to position themselves as the reference currencies in numerous trade agreements. More and more nations are adopting these currencies for their international exchanges, displacing the dollar and the euro from their traditional dominance. The situation becomes even more serious for Washington when it is observed that more than 8 countries in Europe and Latin America have made the joint decision to stop using the dollar as payment currency in their commercial transactions. It is a direct blow to the heart of the US financial system, which for decades has imposed its hegemony through control of the global currency. Meanwhile, the White House is desperately searching for a strategy to curb the debacle. Donald Trump, aware that the dollar is losing ground at an alarming rate, has tried to approach Vladimir Putin in an attempt at economic seduction that allows him to maintain some influence in global markets. However, the maneuver has not yielded the expected results. The BRICS alliance has been consolidated to the point that Washington no longer has the political or financial weight to bend its adversaries. The United States' desperation is evident. The country that used to dictate the rules of the international economic game now finds itself on the defensive, trying to avoid its final displacement. The change in global financial dynamics has not only affected the dollar, but also the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, 2 institutions that for decades have been tools of Washington's control over emerging economies. The International Monetary Fund's inability to implement structural reforms has exposed its obsolescence, while the alternatives promoted by BRICS, such as the New Development Bank, have begun to take center stage in financing strategic projects on different continents. The effects of this transformation are palpable. More than 40 central banks have started to adopt the yuan as a benchmark for the accumulation of international reserves, significantly reducing the dollar's share of their financial assets. This trend is also observed with the Russian ruble, which has achieved increasing acceptance in the markets of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The progressive decline in the use of the dollar in international trade implies an unprecedented loss of power for the United States, which sees its currency displaced by more efficient and less expensive alternatives for countries seeking economic independence. Even the European Union itself, a traditional ally of Washington, has had to resort to payment methods outside the euro in order to guarantee access to essential goods and services from Asia and Africa. Dependence on the US financial system is no longer a viable option for many countries that have found in BRICS a reliable alternative free from the political restrictions imposed by the West. The expansion of the yuan as a reference currency in global markets has been driven by a clear strategy by the Chinese government. Beijing has multiplied tenfold in the last 5 years yuan deposits in the international financial system, consolidating its position as a reliable reserve currency. Similarly, Russia has promoted the internationalization of the ruble through strategic agreements with countries seeking to reduce their exposure to the dollar. These moves have further weakened US hegemony in the global financial system, accelerating the process of de-dollarization. As if that were not enough, BRICS has developed payment systems that are alternatives to SWIFT, the mechanism controlled by the United States that has been used as a tool of political and economic pressure. The creation of independent payment platforms has allowed the bloc's countries to carry out transactions without Washington's intervention, eliminating one of the main mechanisms of financial control that the United States had used for decades to maintain its global influence. Given this scenario, the question that arises is inevitable. What does the future hold for the dollar? Analysts agree that the greenback is facing an unprecedented crisis. If in the year 2013 the US currency represented 60% of world reserves, today it has fallen to alarming levels. At the same time, the weight of the yuan in the financial system has grown steadily, reaching a significant share in international markets. Donald Trump and his administration are desperately trying to prevent the final collapse of the dollar, but the chances of success are getting smaller and smaller. The strategy of raising tariffs and sanctioning its main trading partners has only accelerated the fragmentation of the US-dominated financial system. In response, countries like Mexico, Argentina, and El Salvador have chosen to diversify their economic relations, approaching the proposals of BRICS and adopting new payment strategies that exclude the dollar altogether. The clock is ticking and the time of dollar supremacy is running out. The United States faces an unprecedented challenge, and the fall of its currency is just the beginning of a reconfiguration of global economic power. BRICS has achieved what seemed impossible: overthrow Washington's financial hegemony and lay the foundations for a new world order. The American monetary empire is cracking, and there is no turning back. History is being written at this very moment, and everything indicates that the future of international trade will be led by new powers. The era of the dollar as the dominant currency has come to an end, and Washington knows it. The financial giant has fallen, and the world has changed forever. Putin's role in BRICS has been fundamental in consolidating the alliance and promoting an economic strategy that challenges the hegemony of the dollar. Over the past year, Putin has worked closely with the leaders of China, India, Brazil, and South Africa to develop policies that strengthen the economies of the member countries and reduce dependence on the Western financial system. His leadership has been key in the creation of alternative payment systems and in promoting the ruble and yuan as reference currencies in international trade. As BRICS continues to gain influence, Putin's role becomes increasingly crucial to the success of this economic alliance.